Good evening, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to today, 9/25 of 24, September, Wednesday at 7 o'clock. This is the Millis Finance Committee. I'm John Lohr, the chair of the committee. I'd like to go around and introduce ourselves. If you could, starting off to my left.
Sarah Reyes.
Jen Zaretsky.
Joyce Boyardi.
Kathy McGinnis.
Pete Berube.
Thank you. And is Pete Underhill on Zoom? Do you do?
Peter Underhill, right here.
Awesome. I didn't see you on the view that we have here. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate.
Peter and Jody are, I'm also on.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jody.
You can change your view on the screen too. You can change it to gallery if you want.
That is true.
There you go.
Jody, you're so smart.
Way to go after one lesson, Mr. Chair.
Right? See?
Really?
Here's promise. All right, we are good to go. Okay, thank you. So before we get going, we have Zoom here, as we can see. We're live. Also, if you want to watch us on your local access at home, you can. As well as this will be on YouTube. It's being recorded and will be posted usually shortly after the meeting, so please take a look. And then if anyone who is speaking either on the committee or at the mic or on Zoom, please use the mics so that we can hear you clearly. So I appreciate that. Before we get going, I'd like to call the school committee and let's talk about the current override and the details behind that.
You drew the short straw? Happens often.
He's a veteran.
I know. Good evening, Mark Conroy, the school committee. So my understanding is the select board put an override on the ballot and it'll be on the warrant for the exact same amount as it relates to the school as was on in May. So we are supportive of it's exactly what was requested in the spring. Same positions, all the positions that were removed for this budget cycle, we're looking to restore those without going ad nauseum to everything that we, went through for the last year and a half. And going up to it, I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want us to dive in?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why don't we use the handout that Bob Mulaney handed out to us? And if you could just walk through maybe where things are relative to the vote last town meeting in November, and the override not passing, and where things are today.
Yeah, so what I can do, we can go through this. So this document lists the positions that were cut. So we lost 2 kindergarten paraprofessionals, math tutor, this is at Clyde Brown, reading tutor, a reading specialist, unified arts, so a STEAM program, so we don't have anybody doing the STEAM program at Clyde Brown, 1 Spanish assistant, a 20% reduction in the art teacher. In the middle school, we lost 2 English language teachers, a math teacher. In total, the TV production program is no longer operational because that person who split their time 40% in the middle school and 60% at the high school was reduced, eliminated. We had a math interventionist, 20% of PE it was reduced. We lost, it was only a 20% individual, like 0.2, but the virtual high school teacher. So they taught virtual high school, which gave us some benefits in the share of virtual high school classes available and the cost of those programs. So that person's gone. A full physical education teacher. Our bridge program was eliminated, which was the full-time Bridge Program Coordinator, and then a paraprofessional that was also in that room, a English teacher at the high school, and 20% of a Spanish teacher. We walked through kind of the implications. So there's no technology classes at Clyde Brown. Previously, Clyde Brown had a class of technology once a week. Those are no longer happening. One daily art class at Clyde Brown has been eliminated, so students are getting less art than they received last year. Again, in the middle school, two English language teacher in 6th grade and another one in 7th grade has been removed. So students who used to get 2 periods of English a day are now only getting 1. And, they were getting 2 a day because this is what was helped keep our MCAS scores and get students the support that they needed by giving them extra time, an extra class. 8th grade math teacher, which was the same situation. So in 8th grade, students were getting 2 periods of math. That's now reduced to 1. Again, TV production, which was 2 middle school classes of 4 high school classes, is gone. Physical education, so we have larger class sizes in PE. The outdoor pursuits elective has been eliminated due to the physical education reduction at the high school. There's no longer AP British literature available at the high school because of the English teacher that was eliminated, and we have larger class sizes in both the junior and senior classes. Again, I mentioned the Bridge program was reduced. Elimination of the math tutor at Clyde Brown limits our ability to provide supports to students that get them to grade level. Elimination of the reading teacher does the same thing at Clyde Brown. So students who need support to get to grade level proficiency are falling. And, this goes to a few weeks ago, the recognition that the middle schools got was in large part, it is based on test scores. It's how well kids do on the standardized tests. Those results, or those rankings, were based on the results from 2023. So they lagged 2 years. So what people need to realize is those results are obviously not based on what's happening today. And what's going to happen is even next year's results, are going to be based on the results of this year. So the implications in seeing kind of everybody wants to know how, the concept I've heard of some people is, well, let's just see how it goes. By the time we see how it goes, we're going to be 3 or 4 years behind the 8 ball. And that's 3 or 4 years of education to the students directly impacted that they're not going to get back. And all of these, like the MCAS scores for last year just came out today. We're going to be sitting a year from now before we see what comes out now. So, again, I said this all spring, I'll say it this fall. All of these positions were added or programs were increased as a result of needing to improve the opportunities and the education and the performance of our students. All of these have been added over the last 10 to 14 years. They weren't just haphazard things that were because people thought it might be a good idea. They were absolutely targeted based on a reaction to middle school MCAS scores being underperforming. PE in the high school not being available to meet state standards. Again, all of these things were there for a purpose, and we will see the impact. You're not going to see the impact on something published next month.
It's a natural lagging effect.
Right. And then you can see on the last page of this, average class sizes for last year to this year. So grade English is up, 2.5 students. Grade 7 English is up almost 9 students per classroom. 8th grade students up 6 students. So grade 7 English now has almost 25 students per class, where last year had 16. Grade 6 math, about the same, just under 20 last year, just over 20 this year. Grade 7 math is up, 7 students per classroom. Grade 8, another 5 per classroom. So that's per class, staff having to split the limited time they have over that many more students. And then 8 core classes this year in the middle school have 25 or more students. So that's what was reduced and the practical impact of what's going on today.
The day-to-day, okay. Where are we with the school budget for this fiscal year?
So at the report we received last night, projected out, things are gonna change.
Yeah.
But the raw number, we were about a $50,000 shortfall. So we were running over budget by 50,000, projecting out the rest of the year. Most likely that will come into, we'll end up making that come in. Whether that happens naturally as we go through the winter and energy savings or staffing or things, whatever happened. But, so we're not way ahead. We'll land on par.
Right,
But right now,
but you should be though, too, correct?
Right.
Right,
One thing that was identified and kind of driving some of the initial overages is we have had to contract 4 sped van routes, both the vehicle and the drivers this year that were not included in the budget. That's going to cost about $176,000 for this year if we have to do that. And that's for students who have had to be placed out of district during this year.
so those were new financial line items versus, did we
Right.
know about those, the
Well, the student-
176?
At least, no, because most of again, it's four students. There was a question of whether maybe one was new to the district, but the
Yeah.
other 3 were in district last year. We now can't provide the services that they need.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to be out of district, and we have to provide transportation. We don't have enough vans and enough drivers, so we're contracting that out. One of the things we did vote last night that'll go to the capital planning committee is we're asking for 2 sped vans to be placed on the warrant as part of the capital planning, because what that would do would actually allow us to, instead of contracting those services out, we could have the van ourselves and hire a driver and be able to provide it at a lower cost than what we're paying for contracted services.
Okay, and not to get into the details, but is the 176 a salary plus vans, or is that just the vans?
It's what we're paying as a contracted service for the driver and the van. And that's an annual value, so divide that by 4,
Yeah,
it's about 40,000 it's costing us, on an annualized basis, $40,000 to transport these students to their out-of-district placement.
right.
That was not in the budget, because last year they didn't have to be transported.
Okay, but, sorry, not to beat this, but, so what, did we know that there's gonna be 3 students that needed out-of-district placement? No,
Because last
okay.
year they were in district.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. But that's, again, the nature of, that's always gonna happen.
Yeah,
The number of paraprofessionals that we've had to reduce, so students have had to be sent out because we don't have paraprofessionals with the RBT license that's required to provide the services on their IEPs.
So if the positions were filled, could be a possibility that those 4 or however many could stay in district.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not guaranteed, but it's.
Yeah, a possibility.
Right,
So therefore, it would cut the costs.
right.
Go ahead, yep.
You mentioned about the ballot and also about the the select board bringing it to town meeting. I just want the people to know out there in TV land that it goes on the ballot. If it's approved, then it will go to town meeting. I don't think.
Quick clarification, it goes to special meeting before the
To
town
actually,
meeting.
thank you, to the special meeting. If it doesn't get approved at the ballot, there will be no special meeting prior to the,
Yeah.
That's my understanding as well.
okay.
Sorry to jump in, but.
No,
Yeah,
no.
no, I-
But I just, because you mentioned the ballot and the special meeting, but I want people to realize they have to vote for this. They have to
Yeah.
come to town meeting. If they're serious about their schools being good schools and getting the benefits or the resources that they need, then they have to come to vote. Aside from voting for presidents and all that, they have to vote for this. And if they don't, it will not go to town meeting again. And once again, you've got another year of wait and see. The other thing is you did mention about people saying, well, why don't you wait and see? And that I have heard several people say that. And your argument of, well, if we wait and see, then you're waiting 3 or 4 years to truly see the impact. And that has to be known, not just in this meeting, but outside this meeting. People are programmed to react. They're not programmed to take care of things. So they're accustomed to waiting and seeing. And I don't know that I'm speaking as a finance committee person, but I'm speaking as a citizen of this town. But that has been one of the things that has been spoken many, many times. What you folks should wait to see what's happening and then be able to present and say, this is all that happened. But now you've explained it very clearly that it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 years to get that answer.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I have a question about, in addition to the additional 4 students with the transportation and the contract drivers, is there also additional tuition on top of that number for these 4
Yeah,
students?
there would be. Right now, it's like, again, total, when you take out the picture, 50, but yeah, there's the tuitions tied to
Yeah.
those out-of-district placements too.
Right, okay.
Question, go ahead, Pete.
I'm very much on the fence on this whole thing. I can see both arguments. And so I think that in order to make, eventually the finance committee is going to vote on this, and in order for me to form my opinion, I do appreciate you diving into the details and, pardon the analogy, but peeling the onion back in terms of what is the impact. That's definitely a question I've had, is what is the impact? And I could go through this, and I will, and ask other questions, and probably via email, because I just don't have them all right now. But one that caught my attention right away was one daily high school Spanish class. Does that mean, is that per grade, or literally there's one class with freshmen through seniors in a Spanish class? Is there like Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3, Spanish 4?
Yeah, no, that's one class, so there's one fewer sections of Spanish. I believe it's a freshman class, so instead of, in a typical year, we might have 4 sections of Spanish, one.
So it's
or
one
Spanish.
class eliminated,
It's one
not just
class,
one
right,
class.
we're
Okay.
putting the kids into 3 sections instead of 4.
My misunderstanding, okay, thank you for clarifying that. And just in general, when there's something that's eliminated, I totally understand where you're coming from, and absolutely anticipated that when we see these great rankings for the schools, yeah, well, that's previous school test scores, and that will take time. And I think your point of it will take time to recover from the impact that could be inevitable. that will take time as well, and there will be a dip. We all hope not, and I think you're doing, I respect what you're doing. I'm not saying I'll vote for it, but I do respect the fact that you have been on the, and I'm talking to you, Mark, you've been on the school committee for a decade or more. You have the history and the corporate knowledge of why the positions were added over time, and if you fought for those positions to recover from something, then of course you're gonna want to, or you will see the value and know in your heart of hearts and your knowledge that there will be impacts. The other side of that argument, of course, is, if you have a higher class size and you went from 2 to 4 or 5 extra students in a class, it's not that is the impact that would help to be measured. And it's very hard to measure it, I think. If a class size goes from 15 to 20, okay, does that necessarily equate to MCAS or other test scores, PSAT or SAT scores that are unacceptable to us as a district or us as residents of the town? And that is difficult to assess. I don't know that it translates right away into a yes or no vote for a lot of people. So that's why I think this is important to look at this and again, peel the onion back and understand it.
Yeah, and I think, I agree, like, the class size count is not there is not.
It's not a direct correlation.
Right, there is not, just to say there's 25 kids doesn't mean all of a sudden all 25 of those kids are not gonna. I think for me, it's not the number in the class size, it's more the services and the support that the broad population is not getting. So it's not, oh, there's 25 kids in the class, it's the degree of support those 25 kids now are not able to get, and that's gonna be the distinction. Like, in the middle school, that's where it's gonna happen there, it's gonna happen there first. Those kids not getting 2 sections, they're getting 2 sections for a reason. It was because it was determined that for the curriculum, for getting these kids prepared and being able to provide the support they need in order to be proficient at grade level or exceed proficiency at grade level, this model works. And this model worked in Millis. And the one teacher or one class or one period wasn't working as well. So you're right, it's not, oh, now there's 24 kids instead of 16. There's not deeper levels of support for these kids, and that's what it's about. It's not just the number. Unfortunately, that's the metric.
The quality's there, but it's not reaching as many students
Right.
with the number of teachers
And
prior.
you just can't spread your time over that many. At some point, in any world, even in any corporate world, you reach capacity and you just can't service everybody. You start scaling up. You can only scale up so much without adding staff to provide the same level of service. And that's what we're trying to protect against.
One more, if you'd like.
Yep, please go ahead, Pete, yep.
Another kind of point that I was thinking about was, you had mentioned that, the gym class, and I don't necessarily like that example, me personally, gym, I don't know, these.
It's a state law.
But it is important for kids, I do see that it's important for kids to have something else to do besides look at a book, and it helps learning. Whether they're getting fit or not, it's more than gym class requires a child to stay fit and active. But it does help learning, and I think that's probably documented. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. However, where I was going with that is that if you're at the bare bones, the bottom basic requirement to meet the state standard, okay, fine. I'm curious though, what other areas are we at the limit of what the state requirement is for other academic standards? Is there any other academic standards that we're failing to meet for curriculum, or are we there at the threshold?
Well, believe it or not, there's not a lot of state requirements mandating particular courses. The state mandates at the high school level, 4 years of English, 3 years of social studies, including US history, and phys ed. Those are the only things that they set exact limits on. Now, obviously, to have a proper academic institution, we have 4 years of math and things like this. So we're meeting the minimum standards, but to your point regarding the phys ed, I mean, we've had to eliminate that outdoor pursuits class, which was an elective class for kids to get outside, to do things outside, and learn skills that they can use as they get older. And it was very popular, and it was popular also for a segment of kids who needed to get outside. And we can't offer that this year. And kids are suffering because of it.
Thank you.
One
Go ahead.
question. You said that, I didn't see it written there, but I believe you said that the AV, the media courses.
Got the TV?
The TV courses.
Yep.
Those were eliminated completely. Okay. Thank you.
And it's safe to say the handout that we received tonight coincides with the school presentation budget in terms of the positions being cut at that time, right?
Correct.
There's no deviation of different schools or different grades or whatever, right? So, okay.
The positions are the same. There was some, might have been some movement, but among teachers. So for example, the English teacher that was cut in the high school replaced a special ed teacher who replaced a teacher who had resigned.
Yeah,
So there was that kind of movement, but the positions are gone.
Yeah.
And, as it says there, we have 16 people who worked in Millis last year
Yep.
who no longer work in Millis this year as a result of the cuts.
yep.
What is the feedback from kids in the schools? Do you get any feedback from them? Are they noticing anything? I mean, I'm certain the teachers are noticing a larger class size because of having a larger
Sure.
class size.
Yeah.
But what about the kids?
So it's been a good start to the year. It really has. Honestly, the kids don't talk to me a lot. I try, but they don't. One thing that some kids have mentioned is at the middle school, they switched to the high school schedule because we lost the doubles and so on. And so instead of 2 lunch periods, there's 1 lunch period, and it's pretty crowded. So kids have noticed things like that right now. Honestly, I don't think it's the worst thing, because we used to have 1 middle school lunch that started at 10:30 in the morning. So those are things they'll get used to, but it's still early in the school year, so I really haven't heard anything from kids other than the kids who wanted to take classes like outdoor pursuits, the kids who, wanted to take AP Brit Lit.
How about test scores? How are they doing as far as class test scores?
Yeah, it's a little early for that, so we
3 weeks
really
into it.
don't have any, I guess, data that's statistically valid yet.
Did you want to say something?
Speak as a parent for Clyde Brown.
Yeah, if you want to go to the mic, that'd be great. Thank you. Just identify yourself.
Sure, Shana Canistrari. My children are in Clyde Brown, and I am also a Girl Scout troop leader of 24 girls. And I hear from my children and from our troop, they miss their technology class, they miss their PE teacher. So Clyde Brown definitely, because I have a 4th grader who has been in the school system for a few years, and she understood what was happening in the spring. Where my 1st grader is, he loved the PE teacher that he had and the continuity of seeing people and also not having technology. Like, they walk by that room and they can't have it, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I agree. My daughter is in one of the 8th grade math classes that was affected, so there's only one math teacher, who was a wonderful teacher. But there's definitely missing that extra help, because that one math teacher is gone. And she also complains that she has 15 minutes for lunch, so that's hard too, because of the new schedule. But also, my son, benefited so much from the double periods. I mean, he got into a very good private school, and they were surprised at the level that he was able to learn at, and they thought maybe he came from another private school, and then when they heard he came from Millis, they were very surprised. So, the school is so wonderful, and it makes me upset that my daughter can't have the same level for her last year of middle school and then going into high school too. So,
Yeah, and that's, Mark was mentioning, it took years to build this up.
Yeah.
And it didn't take that long to dismantle it.
Jen, you had a question?
Oh, I mean, I'll share one of my daughters in 8th grade as well. I got a text from her in the middle of the day asking for a Netflix password because she apparently had free time to watch Netflix in class, so that's not good.
I don't like hearing
I
that.
didn't
Yeah.
like hearing that either, sir.
my daughter didn't ask me for that.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Kathy.
thank you. On page 2, the class size at middle school, are there paraprofessionals supporting the teachers in these classes?
In some classes where it's written in the IEP that a student or students would get support in that class, but it's not every class, every period.
Okay. And also, people have been mentioning, the money's been cut and everything. And was an assistant principal hired?
No.
No? Oh, okay, I thought so. I apologize, I'm just
Yeah,
going
no,
by
sure.
what people ask me.
There's an interim high school principal, correct?
Right, we have a new high school
Maybe that-
principal. But
Because
that's
Principal
because the other-
Dickey
Oh,
resigned.
School
resigned,
resigned
so,
and-
okay,
yeah.
it was even.
Yes.
What's the school enrollment for this year? How did it pan out? I think it's late September. You usually have the figures available for us?
Right, the district, I believe, at the top of my head, I think we're at 1186. Clyde Brown is around 608, which is around where we were last year. Middle school's around 270 ballpark. High school has lower enrollment than we had last year. We graduated 95 kids. Our freshman class is small, 65 students. We have about 13, I think, who chose to go to Tri-County. And then,
13 freshmen?
yep,
Wow.
yep. And,
One of the highest numbers.
yeah, in a number of years.
I'm sorry, repeat that number?
13
Used to be
ballpark, kind of off the top of my
Yeah.
head bit, but
When we looked at enrollment 2 meetings ago, because I remember, because I always look at that 8th grade last year to 9th grade this year, there was like 20 or
20
23,
kids, yeah.
20 kids, which we haven't lost 20 kids in that shift.
5-6 years, maybe,
Yeah.
right.
It's been a
roughly,
lot.
yeah.
So again, beating a dead horse. We've been talking about this for at least a year. One of the implications of this is that we will see more kids go. More kids, if they choice, not to put dollars on everything, but choice costs us money. Tri-County's gonna toss us a lot of money.
$30,000.
The more kids that go there,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
You've got the new school.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kathy.
I ask this every meeting, and I still don't understand it. I apologize. If Millis accepts the school choice, and down the road, professionals find out that services are needed, the IEP or additional services, does that get billed back to the originating town where the student is from, or do we absorb it?
Yeah, if they require special services that pose an additional cost, the sending district, so that their hometown's responsible for it, not us. And likewise, if we have a choice kid who's in another district who requires additional special education services, like a one-on-one para or something like that, we're responsible for that.
Okay.
So generally, we receive $5,000 per choice student, but if that, the number of choice students we have, if you multiply that by 5,000, the number's gonna be different because some of those kids we get more than 5,000 because they have special services that the sending district is paying for.
Thank you.
But
Mr.
what you're saying though is above the 5,000, the other district's responsible for.
Right.
Understood.
Right.
Not to pick it apart, but yeah.
Yeah, and it is.
We're on the same
it
page
is
though, right?
confusing, but.
Does that answer your question? Is that?
Yeah,
make sense?
and if I might ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
What are the approximate numbers of students school choicing into Millis?
I think we're at around 60.
60 or 16?
60.
6-0?
Yeah.
So that's a couple
We
of
s-
classrooms. Do you ever wonder if it's worth bringing these kids in lieu of requiring to?
It's not a couple of classrooms because they're spread over 12
I
grades.
get that,
Yeah.
but still, you get this type of, it drops from, 19, it goes up to high, and I just,
It doesn't, they're
Excuse me, I'll let him
they're spread
answer.
out, that it doesn't, you would never save you a teacher or any position to not do school choice because they're spread out across. And we don't, when you enter them in every year, we have to approve at every grade level, whether it's, so we say, okay, we're in choice, but we can restrict grades that students would be, now, if they're already here, they're moving through, but they're already factored in. But if we can shut grades off, and there have been years where kindergarten, first grade have been shut off.
Okay.
Because,
Right.
and in fact, the 68 is, again, on the lower side of what we've seen in history, in recent history on our total school choice kids. So we have less kids coming in via school choice that are graduating right now. which-
thank you. Mr. Chair, if I
Yep.
could ask about, just switch gears to the sped van, 176,000, and your belief is that purchasing them and including staff to drive the buses and maintain them, would they be Millis staff, or
Yeah, they'd be Millis staff.
are they full-time? What would their hours be?
They'd probably be full-time, it depends on how far they have to drive, how long the route is.
I just asked that, Mr. Chair, because the town part is paying for all the health insurance and everything, benefits. And when you factor in, it's costing $176,000 for the span vets, and if you get two at how much, and you're replacing them every 4 or 5 years, then you have drivers that are now on the payroll with benefits and calling in sick, and what happens then. I'm sure you've done a complete analysis, but people have mentioned that before on the regular buses. Do you check every once in a while to make sure you don't have, it's not more fruitful for you to privatize it? So I just want to
Yeah.
call the attention to everybody about what people call the hidden costs when it comes to doing something on your own. Who's going to absorb the health insurance benefits? The town side will, not you. So I want everybody to be
Total
aware.
compensation.
Everyone to be aware
Well,
of that
to-
what
let's-
you're increasing is increasing the municipal
Let's be clear,
side.
the health insurance, from a pure mathematical perspective, the health insurance cost is taken out of revenue prior to any allocation of the town or school budgets. That comes off the top. It's considered a shared expense, that the premiums go up. Point taken, when you factor in people, you have to factor in that there are benefits. But it is not the town aggregate. It's an above the line, it's a before allocation cost is how benefits have always been treated in the way the budget is developed.
Mr. Chair, that's why I brought up to you a while ago about, at some point, what are the actual fair costs of running town government and the schools when you're asking for something, but meanwhile, while you're asking, even before or after the cut, Mr. Conroy, I get how you say it, but it's still coming out from the gross revenue before it gets,
Yep.
so, let me see what else. And there hasn't been any discussion about a school resource officer down the road. We're not there. We're too busy, we're handling this aspect first. rather
I don't think
than
that
what's
is-
going to happen to that.
That's outside of the override request,
Okay.
yeah. But that's a point for another meeting, absolutely.
Just every once in a while, I want to pop that up.
Yeah, no, don't worry, well, we will be talking about it. Go ahead, Joyce.
I just want to, about the school choice students, now with the class, I know that I'm very well versed in school choice. My children were school choice. So, and it was a long time ago, and it was a lot, it wasn't received as well as it is now. It's a good business now. But my question to you is, will you see the number of choice students because of the changes in class sizes? Will you see the number going down as far as availabilities in each class? Because I know it depends whether you have the class size,
Seats, right.
seats.
Yeah,
Now that you've experienced the cuts and the class sizes have increased, is the money coming from school choice?
Will school choice numbers go down, is what
Will
you're
the school
saying?
choice numbers go down?
I think they will. I mean, they have gone down since last year.
Is
and-
that directly affected by this budget? Has that been directly impacted because class sizes have increased? So therefore, the availability of
We're not
seats?
there yet.
Yeah, it might be
I was
too
gonna say, I think what
early.
you're asking is, has the desirability gone down, right, as a result? Is that
Not
what
so
you're
much
asking?
that- no,
Okay.
No, say in kindergarten you had 5 seats available.
Oh,
And now because of this budget cut and the loss of paras and the class size is increasing, are the open seats now, have they come down to 1 versus?
two.
So that it impacts the enrollment of school choice and the money coming in as well?
I wouldn't say yet
Yeah,
that's something, but it is something that we can, we'll watch. Right now, I think it's more to the point of, is Millis an attractive school for school choice?
Right.
Given the larger class sizes, and the reduction of classes and things like that.
Okay, and then the other thing I just had to say is, you mentioned the freshman class being 68. My feeling is whether there's 68 or 95 students in the class, you still need to educate them.
100% agree.
68 kids require the same amount of teachers.
Mr. Chair?
hang on, probably the school choice number is probably another lagging effect in terms of 1 to 2 years out, of whether or not the availability is still there. So it's a valid point, but I would think it's too early, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you can't hedge the people if they opted to choice out this, I mean.
Not
You
whether
don't
they
know for
want to
sure.
come in.
I understand,
No, but
I
if-
understand.
but people choosing
Availability.
out,
Right.
like,
So it sounds like.
sure, could you have possibly, it is feasible for someone to have choiced out after the override failed? Yeah, but do we know, don't know when those decisions are made individual by individual.
I got a couple questions, but Pete, go ahead.
This question would be probably a better question asked when Mr. Gazansky's here, but I'll ask it anyway, and hopefully we'll get a follow-up if needed. I assume that, there'll be a ballot vote first, and if that passes, then there'll be a special town meeting.
Correct.
I'm curious if the override is phrased as an all or nothing. Is it is it a specific dollar limit that the town would vote on to take to a special town meeting to then vote on in town meeting? And where I was headed with that is to ask you if you have, is your request all or nothing, and have you prioritized if you got something in the middle, have you prioritized what you would seek, what you would go after for additional resources or to recover resources that you've lost?
So if there were things on the list that we didn't think were highly prioritized, if there were things on the list that we thought we could have reduced the number to make it more appealing, they would have been reduced in the spring.
I'm asking a different question. I'm asking if the town, anything can happen at town meeting. You've been there, you've been to dozens of them. An amendment could be made to a motion, and that number potentially, and that's why I'm asking, for town administrator to weigh in on it, is there the ability for someone to amend the vote to say, well, we're not, maybe town meeting feels like the 1.1, 1.2 is too much. you're only gonna get $5 million because it only affects taxes so much, and that's what the voters can stomach. If that were to happen, and I may be in fantasy land in asking that, is the school district prepared to say, this is what we would do if that were to happen?
The select board put the full value on. If town meeting appropriate, if it passed, and then town meeting chose to not appropriate what the voters at the ballot voted in favor of, which is what that would be doing. And town meeting appropriated 500,000, we would then determine how to best allocate the 500,000. We're not gonna do that beforehand.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. I got a couple questions. Going back to the good news with Millicent in the Boston Magazine recently, I believe it was ranked number 52, right around there. And was it, last year was like a 24?
Yes.
So do we know why we dropped down? And I know you didn't do the survey or article or anything
It can vary
like that.
from year to year. You know, I don't know if it's a function of, you know, particular MCAS scores or anything like that. I don't know off the top of my head. I just do know that there is a lot of fluctuation
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah, okay. We were at, I looked online, it was ranked 24th last year. 2022, we were 22, 21, 34, and then 2019, we were 55. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's totally MCAS directed or if there's other
No, there are
variables
other,
involved.
there are other metrics too, student to staff ratios.
Okay,
Percentage of teachers who are evaluated at proficient or above, things. So there's a number of metrics that go into it, but the leading metrics are student performance.
yep. Another question I had was two scenarios. One, if this passes at the ballot and then it passes at special meeting. Is the goal to bring teachers back mid-year, or are we gonna wait till fall of 2025?
Bring people back immediately. So by law with collective bargaining, if it passed, we immediately can offer everyone who was, if they're in the collective bargaining agreement with, like, the teachers union, they get, in essence, right of first refusal. So if these positions are if this passes, we then we would offer every one of those people their job back, which the incentive, an incentive for them, other than coming back to Millis, is they would also come back and they would retain all of their professional status that they had prior to leaving.
Yeah.
So if they've taken a job somewhere else, they don't have professional like they're starting kind of over. They may be at a step with experience, but they're not at professional status. They would come back and basically be exactly where they were prior to.
So regardless of who was filling the positions, that same persons might come back, but if they've already taken a job somewhere else, it might be a new person fulfilling that
Right.
job that's open again.
But the person who was riffed has basically right of first refusal to their job to call back, right?
Yeah, gotcha, okay. Okay, so that makes sense. So I think I understand what in terms of if it passes. So let's go doomsday now. Let's say it doesn't pass at the ballot. And there's no special meeting. What's the game plan after that?
Do what you're doing now.
Go through the budget, right, we go through the budget process, have discussions of what May looks like.
Yeah, and going back to kind of the original conversation, you're pretty much on point now, budget related. You're like 50K minus or something like that, or whatever. So that continues on, and then the question is whether or not another override is seeked town meeting after town meeting,
Right.
Everyone, every time there's a town meeting, it's a separate procedure.
Yep.
Correct, okay. Anyone have any other thoughts or questions? No? Pete Underhill, anyone on Zoom? You guys good? I'm looking at the screen, I should look at the camera.
I'll be good, thank you.
All right.
I'm all set, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your day and explaining everything to us.
No problem.
All right.
All right, see you.
Put that there. Okay, moving along here. Going to FinCom policies and procedures. So Deirdre passed that out. We have a copy of that in front of us. Yeah, so I highlighted a couple spots. I don't think we need to read through this entirely. But looking, so the question here is assigning the roles on a fiscal year basis instead of a calendar year basis. So if you go to, I highlighted it, where is it? Page 3, I believe. Page 3, Section 7, Paragraph A. Officers of the committee, chair, vice chair, clerk, shall be elected annually at the first or second meeting of the committee for any calendar year. So, and Pete, feel free and jump in, but I believe in January, when Finance Committee was starting to meet again, everyone should have voted to keep you as chair or keep the vice chair or the clerk.
They definitely should have.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. We'll look at the minutes. Anyway, so the goal of this change would be to switch it to after the fiscal year closes, so come July, going through that same procedure. So shifting it from a calendar year to a fiscal year. And the idea behind that is to align the positions with the other departments, other committees, other town business that's being done. Open for discussion. Go ahead, Pete.
I don't know why it is written that way. It's been that way for the last 8 years, I would think. Don't remember discussing this or voting on it in my time, tenure here. But I will my biggest input is that making the transition in January puts the new chairperson like out of the fire and into the frying pan. I mean, it's just, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And we've already actually started the budget cycle for the following fiscal year by then. We usually started it in December timeframe, and maybe even November with a tri-board meeting. There's just a lot going on. Unless there's other compelling points otherwise, I think it makes sense to move it to after the annual town meeting. And then that gives time for transition. It gives time for passing on of knowledge, practices, policies, procedures, and then it gives the new chairperson just time to absorb the responsibilities for fall town meeting, which candidly are just much less than they are for Springtown meeting in terms of you don't really have to deal with the operating budget. There may be articles in town meeting, special town meeting, et cetera, but they're just not quite the workload that is needed for prep for annual town meeting in the spring.
Thank you. Jody, did you put this together, or did you have I thought you were part of this way back in the day. Is my memory correct on that or not?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any thoughts? You might want to turn off one of your mics. I don't know. You're coming through in stereo. Maybe not. Maybe because we have 2 speakers here. No, go ahead. You're going to have to speak. No, yeah, sorry. That was my fault.
Was that your fault?
Yeah, we have 2 speakers here, so we're getting Dolby surround sound. But go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
No worries, yeah, I'm more or less related.
Okay.
I'm hearing my own voice as well, which I dislike.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything pertinent to add, or should we just, we thank you for putting it together?
No, I think it's needed to change to be the fiscal year rather than the calendar year.
Okay.
I definitely support that.
Okay. All right, thank you. So, any other comments, thoughts that?
No, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, so it seems like we're in agreement here. So why don't, I propose, I'll put some language together, basically taking out calendar year and putting in fiscal year in this language, and then why don't we vote on it at the next meeting as an approval? That makes sense?
It does if we have, certainly quorum, but we should have virtually all of the members when we would vote something like that, per the document, same document.
Good point. So we'll make the change the next time we have a full committee here. Yep,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
can I, and not a change, but I just want to call to everyone's attention on page 5, 11A.
Just give us a second to get
Yep.
there. Page 5, 11A, at the bottom,
Right,
okay?
that items to be considered for the agenda should be submitted by 5 o'clock on Friday. Just so that the board, the committee has a chance, at least before 5 minutes before a meeting,
Before, okay?
to look at stuff and kind of absorb it. Because
Yep.
I know we're all going to leave tonight and have more questions or comments about what was submitted tonight, but.
Yep.
It
Good point.
doesn't always happen, but
Yeah, I totally agree. If people have a few extra minutes and want to read this on a
Especially-
Sunday morning.
this isn't, requesting a license to open Bogastow or anything. It's, this is major.
Yeah,
We
it's
should be
for
treated as
ourselves.
such,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I mean, they're here for a reason. We should be adhering to it. I would agree. Okay, so I will put that on for the next meeting and next vote on that.
Other things that you've got highlighted?
Yep, so let's see here. I have, so I believe Jen, myself, and Kathy are going to the town municipal conference, and that costs us $65. Deirdre, we're on here, and then Kathy, you submitted, but you did get reimbursed? Okay. Well, so this needs to be signed off, so if, starting, can you just sign the top right to approve that?
Hold
That's
on.
within our,
You have to vote on it?
say it again?
We have to vote on it?
I don't,
Yeah,
need a
so, yeah,
I move,
so I stated the reason, yeah, good point.
I move that the committee vote to approve the expense of $65 for.
Per person.
Per person for members to attend the Association of Town Finance Committees.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payment for the municipal conference for 3 members. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You actually have to do a roll call vote because they're voting on,
Oh, yeah, so go ahead, we'll go with Jody.
sorry.
No, I love it, I need this guidance, I'm a little rusty. Go ahead, Jody, yes or no? Or abstain?
Yes, yeah, aye.
Okay. Pete Underhill?
That was it.
No, Pete Underhill, your vote?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Jen? Ooh,
No.
I don't think so, I don't think it's a conflict of interest.
Okay, I know. Aye.
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 Okay, thank you for your guidance on that one, and,
Mr. Chair,
yes, go ahead.
can I just mention that a meeting like this should almost be mandatory for finance committee members for what you learn about, at least in the morning, great lunch, then leave.
Yeah.
But what you learn about budgeting 101, from where it starts, it's just amazing, and I'm saddened that not more people are going. Thank you.
Well, I think a couple things. I totally agree that, in a perfect world, it'd be great if we could all go. It is on the weekend. I know other people have, time commitments and whatnot. But, I think what we should do is, the 3 of us, whatever we learn, kind of like last time, bring it back and share.
Okay.
And there were documents, thank you. There were documents that were provided last year that both of you provided. And it's good education. We got to keep the edge sharp on municipal finance as terminology and as the laws change. So I agree with it. I'm all about it. Okay, moving down to meeting minutes approval. So we have a couple of minutes here that we need to approve. So we didn't have one in the last meeting, so why don't we start with July 10th, which was a combination of Zoom as well as in person. Seems like ages ago. Can I get a,
Abstention.
you're going to abstain? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July 10th?
So moved.
So moved.
Second?
Second. Why don't we do another roll call, just as we have Zoom here. Jody, do you approve the July 10th FinCom meeting minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Pete? Underhill?
Aye.
Aye. Sarah, you're
Abstain.
abstaining? Jen?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
So we have 2 abstentions, and the rest are ayes. And we will do this then for the other one, which is
Mr. Chair, I
on,
vote that, I move that we vote to approve the meeting minutes of September 18th as written.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the September 18th FinCom meetings. Jody? That's a thumbs up. Pete?
Aye.
Aye. Sarah?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Joyce? Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you, everybody. All right. Board liaison updates. I don't have any. There was no new business at the capital planning. So I have nothing there. Old business, new business. Currently working on MBTA building, the school building, which will be coming in the weeks ahead. So stay tuned for all that stuff. Go ahead, Joyce.
As a liaison from the senior center.
Oh, excuse me. Please, go ahead. I didn't mean to,
That's okay.
didn't mean to breeze by that. It's an important part.
Just want you to know that they've been actively redoing the senior center, moving room from room and setting up different programs. They've developed, they have now a programs subcommittee where they're actually reaching out and trying to create more programs. The Stitch and Sew Group, which is a nonprofit, it's the charitable giving where the seniors are making teddy bears for different facilities, mostly for family shelters and hospitals, the police station, surrounding police stations and fire departments, that's going. But they will be involved with the Lions Club. The Lions Club is having a craft fair on October 26th, and they will be having a table with the teddy bears that they make for donation, and it will be by donation if people would like to get them. And they will be selling, I'm going to say selling, they will be presenting those that are multicolored, but they're also going to have school bears with the mascot, with the Millis M on it, so if parents want to.
Embroidered,
Embroidered, machine embroidered.
not crayons or
No,
anything.
no, thank you, Kathy.
That's high end,
Yeah,
that's
you know.
It
good.
is high
High-end.
end, and all the materials there have been donated. Everything has been, machines have been donated, people's time's been donated. And I have to thank the Friends for their donation for supporting with the money to buy the materials and threads. And we're looking at some rooms to see how we can better
They were gonna do that.
Big sale.
maximize the space and perhaps hopefully get some donations for cabinets and tables. So, but our director she's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
what she has done in this year, I don't know, it would take most 10 years. So I just want to kudos to the Council on Aging as
Yeah.
to how well they're doing.
And then, when's that craft, in October?
October 26th, it's at
Here?
the high school.
At the high school, okay.
Yeah, it runs from 10 to 3. And it's going to benefit it's going to benefit the Lions and anyone, of course, who participates.
Anything you can make, Mr. Chair, and
I will try. I will try.
all those Cocoa boxes?
Any other items?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
I think in the summer or spring, we talked about on the school building committee assigning a rep to, we discussed assigning a rep to attend that on a kind of a rotating basis because we don't earn a seat or anything like that, or, you know, that's fine. But I think it would behoove us to participate in that.
Agreed. I want to say that was Mike Crone, but I'm going by memory. Deirdre, I'll check, I would agree.
And if not, then, if it's not an individual, then perhaps we can put a roster together just
Yeah.
to attend.
They had their meeting last Wednesday when we
Right.
had ours. It
Right.
made it very difficult.
I don't believe anybody was selected for that or, at the time.
Okay. Well, we can definitely get on, it makes sense to have someone, have a finance committee liaison on that. Yep. I'll take a motion if there's no other business.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Been a motion and seconded to adjourn, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Zoom people.
Thank you.
This is